The best way to start any design is by figuring out what the problem is that you're trying to address. In this case, we have a pretty common problem, which is we just want to create a photo gallery to display some photos. So sometimes I'll start with pen and paper and sort of rough things out, but very quickly I'll usually go into a mockup tool like Balsamiq Mockups in this case. But really, you can use whatever mockup tool that you want, or whatever workflow you want. It all comes down to personal preference, and it's really up to you. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I like to do when I get into a mockup tool like Balsamiq Mockups is I like to design from the inside out. And the main thing that we're going to have in our design is photos. So let's start there. So we'll go ahead and go to, say, layout, and we know that we're going to want to have something to contain our photos. Actually, let's go to containers, and we'll just make a rectangle canvas. Doesn't really matter what size. That looks good. And let's go over to media, and we'll go ahead and drop in an image. Just like that. And we don't need to actually include a placeholder image. We can just have an X. That's fine. We're going to have 8 photos in our gallery, so we'll drop in a few more of those. Actually, let's just duplicate these. So we have 2 there, and now we have 4, and there's our 8 photos. Now, of course, I've already designed this project, and we've seen the finished product, but let's go ahead and head down one path that I started out with. We want to be able to click on our photos and have one of them become larger. And one way we could do that is by having our 8 photos here and then enlarging one of these photos and then having all the others reflow around it. So let's go ahead and sort of mock that up quickly. So we'll move these down here real quick and we'll realign them in just a second. And we need to make our container larger, of course. This would still use CSS3. It would go ahead and just enlarge our one photo, and we would have a really nice transition as the photo scaled up and all the other photos reflowed around it. However, as you can see, this isn't really practical. I was even having a hard time just moving around those photos. So a much better approach would be to just keep that large photo on top instead of having all the other photos reflow in the gallery, because that increases the height of the page and just makes it really awkward to interact with. So let's go ahead and just delete that, and we'll go ahead and put all these back. And let's actually just delete these, and we'll go ahead and duplicate this row. And we'll move it down there, and then we can just make our container smaller again. So instead of heading down that route, let's go ahead and just take one of these photos, and we'll duplicate it, and we'll just go ahead and enlarge it, and we'll leave it on top of all the other photos that we already have. And when we enlarge photos like that, the original photo will be removed, of course, because it will now be the large photo. When you're designing, it's important to go ahead and try out a couple of different things, and then when you find something you like, take that design and iterate on it. So now that we have our nice little photo gallery here, let's go ahead and create the rest of this site. So I'm actually going to get rid of this large photo, and we'll just put our smaller photo back, just like that, and we're just going to need a little bit of text. So we want kind of a larger header here. There we go. And we're going to call this gallery My Photos. And we'll center it on the page there. And actually, I think I'd like that to be a little bit larger. That's pretty good. And we'll center it. And then we need to move the rest of our content down. There we go. And it would also be nice to include some information about this gallery. So a good place to put that would be right below it. So we'll go ahead and grab some paragraph text here, and we'll also grab another subtitle. And we'll say about this gallery for our subtitle, and we'll put it down below here. Then we'll put some paragraph text here. We can just go ahead and copy and paste this text. We probably don't need this hyperlink here or any special kind of markup. So we'll go ahead and delete that. And then we can just copy and paste this to go ahead and generate some texture there. We'll have one column of text on the left and another column of text on the right. So we need to make these a little bit smaller. And we'll have some nice space in between them. So we'll increase that a little bit. And that looks pretty good. Normally, you'd want to use the actual text that you're going to use, but when you're mocking up things in a lo-fi fashion like this, it's okay to just use placeholder or lorem ipsum text like we have here. The reason you want to try and always use the real text that you're going to use is because it can give you a better idea of how much space it's going to take up on the page. So if we scroll up here, it looks like we have a header, a gallery, some text about the gallery, and that's pretty much it. It's a very simple design.